YouTube world, my name is Nicholas Montes and you're watching my YouTube channel, The Teenage Movie Critic, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, everybody. I'm so excited to have you back here together again. And in today's video, we're reviewing the second episode of Secret Invasion. Boy, I was really blown away by the first episode, and I was very excited to see what are we going to get in this episode. And let's go ahead and get into it, shall we? And once again, I thought this was just another solid episode into this series that really continued a lot of things. I kind of have a bit of thoughts on this episode, but let's just get straight into it. I think the first thing we gotta talk about here, I really love the way they showed more and developed the character more of Gravik. It really, because the first episode was kind of like a nice introduction to everything. This episode gives the character of Gravik the way to show more as what kind of threat he is to our characters, and obviously we know it led him to becoming this character to lead the evil version of Skrulls, as Nick Fury promised him and Carol Danvers will find the Skrulls a new home. You'll keep your word and I'll keep mine. Pretend to be all these humans, and after the blip, they are still living on Earth, and they still don't have a home, so he turned bad, and he caused World War III. And so then, of course, you get into that scene where Talos takes Fury. Great introduction scene to, use that Skrull thing as to, like, what it is. And then, of course, I think another great thing about this episode is just the acting chops of Samuel L. Jackson and Ben Mendelsohn. I've seen Samuel L. Jackson in a couple things, but this is obviously some of the best acting. Like, you just see him as Nick Fury, as this pointless character, and because he hasn't appeared in the MCU as much lately, you kind of forget he's there. But when he's on screen, he is a force to be reckoned with. He is a great actor, and in the way that he portrays Nick Fury as a character that started out by just recruiting the Avengers. Well, actually, not even recruiting the Avengers. This character started as, like, in the comics, in the Ultimate Comics. He was drawn to be looking like Samuel L. Jackson himself, so it was really cool. And that scene on the train with him and Talos, that scene really gave a lot of Captain America Winter Soldier elevator vibes when him and Steve were going down the elevator and you're going to the new SHIELD base. It really gave a lot of that vibes, but then they transition into an argument, and then it booms, says that every Skrull that Talos was able to get in touch with is now here. They're all living among us on Earth. And it just sets this big thing. It's like, any one of these characters that have lived across the entire MCU could have been a Skrull. And so then you get... What else happened? And then, of course, I guess it's confirmed that Maria Hill is dead, and so you gotta get a funeral there. I didn't even know that the government would actually, like, pull her up in a casket and everything. But you get to see her mom. I feel like her mom is being played by Maria Hill herself. I'm not quite sure, but that was cool, just to see more of that stuff. And then, of course, you get to see that scene with Gravik as he's going to meet with this council, and you realize this whole council has been Skrulls the entire time. I mean, at least one of them has. I mean, at least most of them have. But it's really crazy as it gets into that. I'm just trying to see what scenes to talk about here. Kind of forgot about it, but it's 58 minutes long. What do you expect? And then you get this scene where Gaia is going to see these people, these scientists, in this machine, and she sees this machine, and I'm like, what is this machine here? Like, what's going on here? And then you see later on in the episode of the names, like all these DNA species with Groot, Collapsidian, Frost Giant, Extremis, and you start to realize one of the big Skrull Secret Invasion plot lines is that there are super Skrulls. They're not just Skrulls invading people and pretending to be other people. They also have powers of other superheroes. So it sets up the tension. It's like, and normally the Super Skrull, this machine is to make the Skrulls stronger. So this machine is going to give them powers of MCU characters. Obviously, in the comics, the Super Skrull has the powers of the Fantastic Four, but the Fantastic Four haven't been introduced in the MCU yet. So the closest one, with stretchy powers from Mr. Fantastic, you got Groot's powers. With flaming stuff, you got Extremis powers plus regeneration. No Invisible Woman, so you got Frost Giant powers. And then for Thing powers, you got Cull Obsidian. So it's like, it makes sense, and it's like, all that stretchy arm stuff that we saw in the trailers, we thought that was Venom, but maybe that's actually Groot. Who knows? It's like, it's a cool little detail to know. I kind of have a little minor issue about that, but we'll get onto that when we get onto the bad. Yeah, this episode is overall really, really good. And then also just the stuff of Rhodey, that whole conversation with him and Nick, I thought was kind of crazy, as there's people that believe that Nick Fury or the U.S. started World War III between Russia and the U.S. I mean, it's a pretty crazy plotline to think about, because it's like that's the example as to how these Skrulls can invade, of how they're doing this secret invasion, and nobody knows that the people that started this are not just Russians, they're not just secret people, but they're Skrulls. And honestly, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it, I think Rhodey is a Skrull. The way he was acting does not sound weird. It does not sound like Rhodey that we saw in the Iron Man films, that we saw in the other stuff. It does not sound like Rhodey at all. If it ends up being him, I guess it's a accidental mistake thing, but I don't think that's him. And then also, I guess the last thing we can really talk about here is really the action. I was watching the episode and I was like, wait, there hasn't been an action scene in this entire episode. And I'm like, oh, so we get this final fight scene in this, like, meat place. And it uses the brutalness of doing brutalness in the MCU very well. Where you, like, cut off a Skrull's finger, and then you have, like, Gravik and showing what kind of force and power he is. And, I mean, the action in that scene was really well done. It was really well shot. It's obviously not CGI, but it's something different and unique that I thought was nice. And I think that's kind of the action you're gonna see in this show. So I'm very excited to see what the action's gonna be in this show for the rest of the other episodes. But this action scene was very good. And that's pretty much all of the good on this one. Now let's kind of move on to the bad. So I think when it gets onto the bad, I kind of have a little bit of three issues here. First off, the whole plotline of Secret Invasion, this whole plotline wouldn't have happened if the Skrulls just turned out to be the villains of Captain Marvel. So they just all of a sudden just hide, and something big happens, and they get shut down to Earth, and they've been living among us for many years. If they did that in Captain Marvel, I would have been totally fine with it. But the Skrulls turned out to be good guys, and they promised the Skrulls that they would find them a home, but they haven't done that yet. And they keep talking about Nick Fury's been up in space for years. So I'm guessing that thing he's been up in space that we saw in Far From Home, that was Saber. I understand all of that, but why didn't they find him a home? What was he doing up in that space station? What was he doing? And was Talos being Nick Fury the entire time? Now it kind of confuses me because he says that his midlife crisis, like part of his midlife crisis was the Avengers. So he was obviously there in the first Avengers film. But it makes me wonder, like, after, like, Winter Soldier, because I'm pretty sure that's, like, the last time we saw him until Age of Ultron, was he a Skrull after Age of Ultron, Winter Soldier? Every appearance we saw after him, obviously Far From Home, he was a Skrull. Like, it confuses all that stuff. But it leaves you with interesting intrigue. And then, of course, the whole power thing. I know it's a comic storyline, but I think it's kind of a unique way to do the Super Skrull storyline with adapting these alien DNA tests with these creatures. I just don't. I just hope they don't fumble this. I really don't want them to use it in a cool way and do it with cool action. But I don't want them to fumble that. And then also, I think the last thing we gotta talk about here, Nick Fury being married to a Skrull. So we knew that in this show that they were gonna Nick Fury had a wife. That in Captain Marvel they made a joke that everyone that knows Nick Fury only calls him Fury, and technically that movie was placed in 1995. It's now like 2023, 2024 in this timeline, and he's married to a Skrull that pretends to be a black woman. If I'm being honest, I don't really know how to feel about that. Now, I'm not saying that Skrulls and humans can't coexist within each other. I'm just saying I don't know how I feel about a black man, or not just a black man, a human and an alien dating. Now, I wish I can go back to an alien relationship. I mean, I guess you could say Jane and Thor, but this does not feel right. I mean, granted, if the relationship is good, I'll buy it. I'll give it a pass. But if it's not that great, then it's gonna be a little weird for me. If she stays throughout her human form throughout most of the movie, throughout most of the show, I'll also give it a pass. But I have mixed feelings on Nick Fury dating a Skrull, and that his wife was a Skrull this whole entire time. Overall, that's pretty much my thoughts on this episode. Once again, these are really minor issues. These are like, most of this stuff is like, it's questions, worriness, and then really the main issue I have is I'm a bit mixed on the whole Nick Fury marrying a Skrull type of character. That's the only thing I'm really worried about. Overall, I thought this was a pretty good episode. Not quite as good as the first one. I thought it was a great introduction, but I thought this one dived a lot into more stuff I really liked. We'll see. I've watched this like 2 times. So that's my review for Secret Invasion Episode 2. Before I give my final score, be sure to comment down below. What are your thoughts on Episode 2 of Secret Invasion? Did you guys love it? Did you guys hate it? What I was mean? Let me know all your thoughts down below in the comment section below. With that said, let's get on my scores. Alright, so that's it for my scores. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All my social media stuff is in the about section over there. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.